Alright, motor's back in the bike, and just a reverse of the removal procedures. Got the hydraulic jack, brought it off the bench, got it up underneath, lifted it up enough to get the rear lower mounting bolt through, and then also this upper mounting bolt. Once those are in, the fronts go in pretty easy. I use the jack to maneuver the engine a little bit to align the holes, but other than that, nothing to it. Something I didn't notice on the removal, and the reason why the engine just doesn't drop right down when you loosen everything, is on this upper rear, let me get down in here, on this upper rear mounting bolt there's a spacer there, and it has a little pinch bolt. Didn't notice that before. With this pinch bolt loosened, that spacer can move around, and with that pinch bolt tight, it pinches and holds this upper rear portion of the motor. That's one of the reasons it was tight to drop down. But anyway, loosen that, tighten everything up. All the mounting bolts are 40 pounds, and then you go back and tighten this pinch bolt for 17 pounds, and then this right side forward mounting bolt, it has a pinch also, 17 pounds. So now I can begin the process of getting all the cables hooked up, carburetors in, starter motor wire attached, and all the plumbing, of course, too. So I'm going to work on that today, get all that stuff straightened out. First up is connecting the starter motor wire, and you got to feed it through this aluminum rubber shielding. And I almost forgot, there is a negative lead that goes down to the starter motor also, that attaches on that frame there, and I think it feeds through the same hole in this heat shield that the positive lead connects to. Anyway, got that back down in there. Next on is thermostat assembly. I put a little, I very, very lightly grease the inside of the hose just so they slip on nice and easy. This fits up right under here, attaches to these two pipes at the top of the crankcase. And then I've already got the header pipes on and torqued down, and I'm going to route the various cables, clutch cable, choke, other things, through to where they need to be before I put the radiator on. Once I put the radiator on, it starts to get hard to work in the front of the bike. Exit valve cables kind of route back behind the clutch case cover, and then they zip tie right onto this engine stay right there, and then they come, I believe, up and over the linkage assembly and then down into the exit connector. Trying to get all the electricals in, so spark plug wires, ignition coils. So far, it's been pretty obvious which connector goes to which other. Alright, these three here, brown connector to the brown connector. Up here, ignition coils go on there. The wire that comes up from the timing case cover, right there. This blue and this green, I think, the green I think is the water, or sorry, the fuel pump electrical. I think that goes on that blue, but I'm gonna look at that one again. Alright, a few more pieces in, carbs obviously. And to get these in, I had to take the ignition coils out. They just were getting in the way. That helped me feed the throttle cables through, and notice the throttle cables come up and over this and sit in that plastic cable guide along with the this is the ignition wires here, the little on-off switch, kill switch, and then the choke cable comes over here on the left-hand side, pinches down here, attaches there. Let's see, blue was not connected to the green. The blue goes to the blue because I neglected to recall that there were some wires hanging out on this side. There's the kickstand warning. There's also the oil level sensor. So those two wires came up, and sure enough, those were the last two things that have to be connected up here, except for the fuel pump. So I got to find the fuel pump power wires. Let's see, cinching down those boots, not fun, but you know, get an Allen head that has, let me see that, the round end, which makes it a lot easier. I also, to get the boot for cylinder 1 tightened down, I did pull the eggs up servo right here. I just pulled that up and out of the way, which allowed me to come up from underneath here and get in there pretty nicely. So, not too bad. Let's see. Well, more wires. Final inspection down in this area. I still haven't found my fuel filter. I know I bought a new one. Got to find that, put it in. Then I'll go back, put the ignition coil and spark plug wires in. Then I'll probably come back up and check my wiring up in the front of the bike. Still haven't put the kickstand on. Eggs up still has to be connected, but I'm not sure which cable's which. And so, got to go through those parts and put that back on. I've got the gear shift extension lever on, so that's good. I have not torqued down the sprocket nut yet because I can't find my big nut or big socket to fit on there. Idle adjust pins onto that bolt of the shift shaft cover plate, and that's about what I've got going so far. I've also flushed out the radiator, fixed a few of the fins, wiped down the fan, kind of just general prep to put that on, so that's coming soon as well. Alright, so I forgot to put the neutral sensor in. I found that laying on the side here, so it actually gave me a good excuse to pull the charcoal canister, which I have never removed. And by pulling that, I was able to easily insert that idle sensor in there without having to remove the motor. Anyway, that's in. A few little odds and ends are in. That clip holder that holds the drain tubes and things. I've got a radiator in, and the auxiliary tank here. I need to get a new hose for the vent tube for that. Took a while to figure out the proper routing of the clutch cable. It's very finicky, but the factory manual definitely does say exactly how to route it. So once I got that squared away, it was good. A couple things on the X up here. In addition to the service manual procedure to set the free play and the cabling, the other problem I had was that all the bolts that were holding this assembly in were just completely frozen in here. I had to get a torch and some locking pliers and pull all this stuff out. So what I'm going to do is bring this out and service it a little bit. Let me show you on the bench. Alright, so in addition to just a basic cleaning, I'm going to use this copper-based anti-seize lubricant. May be hard to find, but this stuff is heat resistant up to 1800 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's useful in an application like this. And so the old bolts I'm throwing away. I've got new bolts. And I'm going to apply this stuff over here. You can see this stuff here. Right over here on the end. And there's a spacer that goes on there, and I think it just fell on the floor. And then I'm going to apply it to these bolt threads as well, so that they won't get frozen in there again as bad as this time. And I've taken this out before. It's not like this thing's been in there since the day I bought the machine. I'll probably put a little bit of the grease inside of here as well. Alright, with my valve in and torqued down, let me show you the ordering of the components, at least the ordering I use, because the factory manual is definitely a little buggy. First thing is the big flat washer. Next is the little wire coil or spring. Then you've got your pulley, which has a recessed side and it has a flat side. Flat side faces out, and then this should give you a little spring there. And then the holder bolt on the outside, again, I've used the copper lube, anti-seize lube. Anyway, then that torques down to hold that assembly in, and this holder bolt has a small washer on it. Now, the cabling, which is up here, I haven't put these on yet. I gotta go redo this and put these on, but the cable on the top, here comes up and over the pulley into this attachment point, and then the cable that's on the bottom of this bracket comes down and hooks up to the bottom right here. I'm going to do that right now, but I need both hands. I've just got a couple of the last few hoses on like this Reservoir Overflow tube, which just snakes its way down across and down the other side. Carb vent hoses, which used to go to the canister, charcoal canister, which I've ripped out. Again, now just thread over and down to the side. I've really left the last two things being the fluids. I didn't want to put any fluids in here in case I had to pull everything back out again, but now we're ready. So I'm just going to throw some 10W30 petroleum-based oil in. Again, oil that I'll use to break in the motor. And then I'll just use distilled water with a little water wetter in the radiator. I have, obviously in the last 10 years, run without distilled water, and I'll cut in a picture of my cylinder area where the water flows, and you'll see all the gum and buildup that's in there. So you really do have to run distilled water. And we have our first problem. So when I was filling the radiator, got a leak right away. Came over here and traced it to this pipe right there. What I'm guessing is the O-ring in there is pinched off because it's squirting out pretty good. So that looks to be something pretty obvious. Anyway, I'll collect up the water that I put in, pull that pipe out, see what's going on. And there's the problem. That O-ring somehow got pinched and turned. So that's an easy fix. Alright, got that pipe back in and refilled the radiator. Looks pretty good now. No leakage there. But problem number two. Looks like behind the oil filter here, probably is going to be fuzzy, but coming off the oil cooler, there's a hose right in here with a clamp, and I did not tighten that clamp. I ended up taking off the oil filter in order to get back to this hose clamp right there and tighten that thing down. With it tight now, no further leak in that area. But while I was down here, I noticed I got a drop of oil on the ground. So it's not from the oil filter. The oil level is not high enough yet to get up to that. So figured it had to be coming from either the drain plug or the oil level sensor, which is just back behind here in this recess. Well, I don't remember loosening this. I thought I just left it tight on the belly pan when I took the belly pan off, but guess what? I did loosen it at some point. Never came back and tightened it. So anyway, I got to torque that down.